dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I thought I would share with you guys, as we tiptoe to the end of the year, my favorite books from 2022. I had a great reading year. Most of the books I read this year were either 4 or 5 stars. We had a couple of 3s and 2 stars. I had no 1-star reads this year, which is always nice. These were all 5 stars. I think these were all of my 5 stars. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I got my list made and we're just gonna jump on into it. These are really in no particular order. They were all just the best. I loved them. The first one we're gonna talk about is actually the first one that I read back in January. And I knew I started this year off with a bang. I was like, this is gonna really set the bar high for the rest of the year. And that is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. This book is hard to describe. It's hard to tell you about in a couple of sentences. Now, all of these books I have full book talks on or spoiler-free book reviews, but I think most of them are full book talks. So you can go and listen to it. But this book, this writer, I can't wait to see what else she's written or what else she comes out with, because I was really, really taken with it. It's kind of it's a bit of a ghost story. It deals a bit with the pandemic. It deals with the Black Lives Matter movement. It's just this whole mashup of very timely and relevant things just covered in a ghost story. And a lot of it takes place in a bookstore, and I thought it was so good. And that's really all I'm going to tell you about it. If you want all the tea, you can go check out, the book talk. Oh, the second one, this one, I loved. I loved this one. And that is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Now, I ordered this book not really knowing much about it. And it's very beautiful. There's a lot of like sketches and drawings. So, like I said, I didn't know much about it, but I had heard people talking that they were looking forward to it. So just based on that, knowing it's about an old haunted house, I ordered it. Now, once it got here, I realized it's a YA book, which I don't really read a lot of YA. So for a minute, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, but I loved it. Loved it. And if I had read this when I was like 12, 13, 14, I would have been terrified, but I would have been obsessed with it. I would have loved it. If you have any young readers in your life, like say 11, 12, 13, 14, I can't recommend this enough, especially if they like ghost stories. It's about this girl who lives in like an orphanage, and she gets a letter from a family member that she doesn't know existed. She didn't know. She thought she had no family. And she goes back to the house and just insanity ensues. And the way the ghosts are described in this book, it would have terrified me when I was a kid. It was excellent. So yeah, would definitely recommend that. Again, especially if you have any younger readers in your life. I think they would just love it. Next up, we have They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This one is the one that I think came out in 2000 or 2001. But I thought it was great. First of all, look at that lady on the cover. Beautiful. With the red hair. Striking cover for sure. This is kind of a revenge fantasy, I guess. It's not a fantasy. It's I guess a horror or thriller. And it's about a woman who is a serial killer of men who have done bad things to women. And there's a twist about halfway through that I did not see coming. Maybe I should have. Maybe if you've read it, you've seen the twist coming, but I didn't see it coming. I thought it was great. It was unique, and you can kind of cheer for. You can't help but cheer for her as she's doing bad things to people who have done very bad things. Like I said, it had a great twist that I didn't see coming. It's told through 2 separate storylines. One's like the present, and then one's, I think in the 90s, and it goes back and forth between the two, and I thought it was great. Really good. Let's see what's next on the list. Oh, next up is We Spread by Iain Reid. If you've been around this channel for a while, you know I love Iain Reid. He's a Canadian author who's written, you know, almost a handful of books at this point. I'm Thinking of Ending Things is one. Foe is another. I loved both of those. They're very strange. They're very unsettling. And We Spread is no different. It's about a woman who is getting up in age, and she decides to move into like a care home facility. She learns that her husband, or not, he wasn't her husband, but her partner before he passed away, he had arranged it all so that she would be taken care of once she got up in age. And so she goes in, and things are weird. Things are weird in there, and she begins to lose her grasp on what's real and what isn't. And as we go on that journey with her, it's a ride. All of his books are a ride, and this one is no different. I thought it was great. The ending is beautiful. The ending really, really hit me. His writing is so beautiful in general, and this one got me right in the feelings, and I cannot wait to see what he comes out with next. I think he's just such an interesting storyteller. Oh, next up, this was another 5-star read for me, like these all were, and this is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. Paul Tremblay has become a favorite of mine over the past couple of years. Everything I've read from him I've really liked, and I wasn't too sure what this was going to be about, but it's great. So it's about a guy named Art and his friend. What's her name? It's a weird name. Mercy, I think. Yeah, I think it's Mercy. I can't quite see her. Anyway, Art and his friend Mercy, and it's written like a manuscript, like he's written the story of this time with his friend. But what's interesting is that, if you can see there, the red marks, she's found the manuscript and she's gone through and she's like correcting it. She's telling, you know, she's saying like, this didn't happen. That's not how this happened. You're remembering this wrong. And it's sort of a story of a weird young guy with his weird friend when they were younger and the weird things they went through. And I like the sort of unreliable narration. That's always something I really love in stories, and I thought this was great. I know this doesn't have a ton of great reviews. It seems like people either hated it or they loved it. Not a lot of in-between opinions, but I thought it was good. I like the ambiguous way that he tells stories and he ends them. I think that's really interesting, so would definitely recommend. I saw someone, I think it was Books and Lala, describe this on Goodreads as if, say you're in the movie theater watching a coming-of-age story, and in the next theater there's a vampire story playing, and you can kind of hear it through the walls, which if you've read the book, I think you'd agree that's a fairly amusing and apt description. Okay, next up we have Little Eve by Catriona Ward. There are 2 books from her on this list. Now, this one I think came out a few years ago in the UK, and it's just now out in North America, or I don't know, but I got an early copy of it on Goodreads this summer, so I was confused as to like, is it out? Is it just the ebooks now out? I don't know. So to me it came out this year. Anyway, it's about a cult and a family that makes up that cult, and it's very weird, and I really loved it. I feel like that's how I'm going to describe her other book on this list, as it was very weird and I loved it. This one was great. It takes place on a small Scottish island. Her writing is so good, like it's so engrossing, I find, and I just loved every second of that book. And then now that we're talking about her, we'll get her second one in here too, and that's The Last House on Needless Street. This is another very polarizing book. You either loved it or you hated it. A lot of people find it really confusing at the beginning, but anytime I hear someone say that, I always tell them, like, stick with it. It will all make sense by the time you get to the end. And if you have the patience for that, great. If not, then I guess, you know, it's not for you, but I thought it was great. It's about a man who lives in a house on Needless Street, a teenage girl that lives there with him, and his cat. And you get point of view chapters from the cat, which is very different, but it works, and it all makes sense at the end. So both of those books I would highly recommend. And I can't wait to see what she comes out with next as well. Next we have The Shadows of Rutherford House by C.E. Rose. I loved that too. Obviously, this is my favorite books. It's a haunted house story, which there are a lot of those on this list, and it was great. It was atmospheric. It kept me turning the pages. I thought the reveals were great. It's just great. Again, it's like, you know, about different timelines, different generations. And if you love a haunted house story, would totally recommend. Next up is the one that doesn't come out until, I believe it's March. It's either February or March, and that is Mothered. The book talk on this one went up, or the spoiler-free review, I should say, on this one went up not too long ago, and I just loved it. That's by Zoya Stage. It's about the pandemic, and this girl, her mom is like, you know what, I should come and stay with you so we can save money. You know, since everything's closed down, a lot of people aren't working, we can save money, keep each other company. So at first, she doesn't want to. Her and her mom are not close, but eventually she's like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. From there, things immediately go sideways. Just a lot of things happen. This woman, she's still haunted by the memories of her sister who passed away when they were small. Her mother finds out that she's been catfishing people online, but like kind of with good intentions. She catfishes these lonely, sad women and tries to build up their confidence. But she catfishes them as a man. So like, she's not trying to hurt them, she's trying to help them, but she's doing it this really weird way. Obviously, don't do that, it's very bad. And her mom finds out and thinks it's super creepy, gets really mad. Then eventually her mom accuses her of something from her past, and it's like this earth-shattering accusation, and she begins to spiral. And again, there's a lot of unreliable narration, and you're like, what is going on? And I thought it was great. I thought it was really good, and the ending was very strange in a good way. And finally, number 10, we have The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. Loved this. I love Jennifer McMahon in general. The Invited, I loved. The Drowning Kind, I loved. And I loved this as well. I don't know that it's my favorite that I've read of hers yet, but it was still a 5-star read. Thought it was great. This is kind of a Frankenstein retelling, kind of. Again, it's one of the main characters is a house, a building. It's about siblings and then a child that's kind of adopted into their family while they're being raised by their grandmother. And again, it keeps you guessing, and I thought it was really well written, and I can't wait to see what she comes out with next, because Jennifer McMahon is a fantastic writer. I just love her. Anyway, so those were the highlights of my 2022 reading year. I read 43 books, and I can't wait to see what 2023 has in store. There's so many good books. Not enough time. But yeah, thanks. Let me know down below if you've read any of these and what you thought. Let me know what your favorite book was of 2022. And I will see you guys tomorrow in another vlog. Bye, guys.